Hi everyone, Kasia Zmokla here. Welcome to my channel where you will always find photo editing training and educational videos to help you grow as an artist and photographer. Today we will be working on this frosty landscape. I wouldn't say it's a wintry landscape. There is not much snow yet. We just had some temperatures here in Poland below 0 Celsius, so we have some of this nice frost here on the ground. So this is our starting point. This is the original raw file, and we will be working towards this result. So today I will show you how to create depth in the image, how to add mood to the scene, and how to add style with color grading. Let's jump right into it. Okay, so let's start working on our image. I'm just going to create new variant, so I will be starting working on this image from scratch. So first of all, let's take a look at our histogram. So as we can see here, we have quite nicely spread data across the graph. We have plenty of very rich midtones. We have some strong highlights and quite strong shadows as well. We have this gap of information here to the left, which means that we are lacking very deep blacks and we are lacking very strong highlights. However, in case of this sort of images, I've been talking about this in one of my recent videos where I was showing how to apply matte effect on such a busy scenes. Typically, these would be landscape images when we have especially trees. They are providing a lot of detail, so a lot of is going on in this image, and one of my tricks is to simplify this sort of chaos with matte effects. So I'm going to post the link to this video down below. So coming back to our histogram analysis. So we don't have the blacks, we don't have the whites, but I don't think this is a bad thing in case of this image. Because if we would basically apply auto levels right now, so let me just jump over and take auto levels tool, and if I apply auto levels here, so this will push my black point, so now the data will be stretched across the whole graph. Now we have plenty of deep blacks, we have plenty of very rich highlights. However, I don't think this benefited the image at all. So maybe it's not aligned with my creative idea for this edit, because as I've mentioned at the beginning, this is sort of frosty landscape, and all I want to focus on here is those still visible, quite strong colors that we have here on those trees. And I want to go in my color grading towards putting more emphasis on those blues that are visible here in the sky and here in the shadow on the snow. So I want to accentuate those colors, I want to play around with them, and this will enable me to create this beautiful frosty mood. So I don't want to go deeper towards those blacks, I don't want to go for this sort of super contrasty and harsh look that we would get if we would apply the auto level. So this might be true, but I'm already fed up with all the darkness that we have here. So basically before 4 in the afternoon, it's pitch black outside. So I might save it for summer. So right now I want to bring more light to this image. I want to play around with colors, and I want to introduce some delicate but quite prominent color grading. So this is our starting point, and this will be the image that we will be working towards. So I want to play around with light, I want to play around with color, and I want to accentuate particular elements. So in case of this image, I want to put emphasis on those beautiful birch trees that are here on the first plan. So going back to our original file, instead instead of applying auto levels as I would typically do, I would go towards the HDR adjustments. Let's put the layers here at the top. Okay, so let's move over and take a look at our HDR tool, because I would rather create more harmony in this image by revealing more detail in the sky. So this can be done by working with the highlight slider. So I'm going to push it towards the left. So this darkened the sky. Maybe it is a little bit too much. The sky got great. So something like this. This balances out the image. We don't have now this division that was visible at the beginning. So we had this bright sky and the rest was basically very, very dark. So this was wintry sunset. I have taken this image about 1 week ago, so at the very beginning of the month of December. So the light was very, very soft, very dim. The sun was going down very quickly, but I've managed to get some of these warm tones. So by pushing my highlight slider to the left, I'm harmonizing the image. I'm linking the sky with the rest of the image a little bit stronger. So this is my starting point. The next step I want to do when I'm still working with the HDR adjustments is to work with blacks slider. So I want to basically open up blacks. I want to introduce more light to this image. Why I'm not touching shadow slider? So let's see. If I would go for positive value on the shadow slider, this is basically creating this washed out effect, and I don't like this. My blacks are still sort of untouched, but I have lost the whole depth. I've lost the dimension that was present in the original scene. So instead, I want to work with the blacks slider, and by pushing this slider, I'm only affecting those deepest blacks in the image. So this revealed a lot of detail in those dark parts of the image, but I want to counterbalance it with my matte effect. But before I do just that, I'm just going to apply my auto levels right now. So if I click on this magic wand, I have corrected the black and white points, but the image now looks way, way brighter than before with the same operation. So I have applied the auto levels, and let's now apply my matte effect just to lift those blacks and to simplify the image in those dark areas. So I want to put emphasis on this group of the birch trees that I have in the center of my frame, and having such a huge amount of details, all these dark trees in the background, is not helping at all. So still working on our background layer, we have applied all these adjustments on the background layer so far. I'm just going to grab my curves tool, and here, operating with the RGB curve, I'm just going to apply a bit of matte effect. Let's just get rid of the browser so we have a little bit more space here. So I'm going to use the ready preset here, the hamburger icon and 5-point on all channels. So that way, with this preset, Capture One automatically created 5 points on my curve in every channel. So I'm working in the RGB channel, and this helps me to anchor my curve. All I need to do now is to just lift my blacks. So I'm pushing this point upwards, and this helps me to simplify these areas where we had such a huge amount of detail visible before. Okay, we can maybe readjust this point a little bit lower. So this adjustment won't include those brighter shadows. I think something like this looks really good. So we can maybe push our blacks even higher. This can be still readjusted. We are working on our starting point for the edit right now. Let's hide the curve, and still on our background layer, I want to now manually readjust my levels, because I can see now I'm working with this white background to have the best reference when working on luminosity adjustments, and I can see that the sky is almost melting with the white, so I've just pushed it way too far. So I can readjust my white and black point. So when it comes to this one, I want to push it slightly backwards. So now I'm bringing back a lot of those a little bit darker highlights. So I have already improved the sky, and when it comes to my black point, we can push it backwards as well. So now it is at 27, and I just want to make it a little bit brighter here. Okay, so I think 16 works well. So on our background layer, we have applied adjustments with levels. We've been working with the HDR tool, and we have applied our matte effect with curves. Okay, so having the base set, I'm going to jump right into color grading. So before I start working on differentiating those planes in the image, so right now the scene is quite flat. I have taken this image with a portrait lens with my Fujifilm camera. I have recommended this recently as well, because simply when I'm going out to the forest with my wide angle lenses, I am overwhelmed with the amount of detail, and basically when I'm looking at particular elements, particular trees, particular scenes, compositions, I'm cropping them out with my eye, but when I take the camera and then if I take the shot and look at those shots at home, I can't see those compositions anymore. There is just too much going on. So I started experimenting, and what I recommended is taking landscape images with a portrait lens camera. This might help you to sort of search for particular elements in the forest. So here I was standing in open space. I was very far away from these trees, maybe even I would say 60 to 100 meters. So the particular lens that I'm working with, this is a prime lens, the Fujifilm Fujinon 56 millimeters. So it zoomed in quite strongly, and I was able to actually crop this nice composition and bring it home. If I would have taken this image with my wide angle lens, this composition would be lost because there would be so much more going on to the left, to the right, upwards and downwards in this scene. So this is my recommendation. You can try it out, and if you don't like it, you can still bring your wide angle lens with you and swap them. So let's start working on color in our image. So I'm just going to create new field adjustment layer. Let's rename it. Let's call it color. And here I think I will move towards advanced color editor, because this one will allow me to sample in particular colors in the image, and this is the way to go. Because the image is quite monochromatic, we have not much going on in terms of color, but I want to really bring out some of those blues, some of these yellows, and to harmonize this whole image. So first of all, I'm going to take care of these blues. So in general, we have some of the blues that are more on the magentish side. If I hover over the sky here and take readouts, the color readouts, we have 201 for the red and 226 for the blue, 210 for the green. So there is plenty of red. I want to push this blue, this color that is present in the sky and the one that is visible here in the snow, I want to make it cooler. I want to push it more towards the cyans. So let's start working with our advanced color editor. I'm just going to sample here in the sky, and that way I have sampled my color. So let's now click on this icon here. This just makes sure that we have the whole saturation range included in our selection. If we want to see the selected color, we can just enable this icon here, and everything now that is grayed out is not included in the selection in here, and what is included is visible here in the blue. So let's just switch it off, and let's go more towards the cyanish color. So I'm going to work with the hue slider, and I want to go basically upwards in the color wheel. I want to switch. My color that I have sampled is visible here, this little dot. I want to push it upwards. I want to go clockwise on the color wheel, so I need to basically push my hue slider in the opposite direction. If I go towards the right hand side, I'm going towards magenta, so I'm going in this direction and I want to go the opposite way. So by pushing my slider towards the left hand side, I have basically changed the initial color sample. This is the original one before the adjustments. I have pushed it towards those greenish cyans. So I really like this result. So let's see again, before and after. It might look at the first glance as a bit too much, particularly here in those dark areas in the snow, but I want to create this stylized color grading and I feel that it works quite well. So maybe we can just go just a bit towards the negative side with saturation, not much. Okay, I think something like -6 will be fine. And let's try push our lightness slider towards the right, so we will introduce more light. So I think this is a bit too much. I think something about 25 works well. So we have adjusted the blue. This is before, this is the after. Let's now focus on the second color that is visible here. For now, I'm going to leave out the yellows. I'm going to focus on those sort of dark red brownish leaves that are visible here and here in these areas in the image. So I'm going to zoom in so I can quite precisely sample in this area. Let's take our color picker and let's sample around here. Let's zoom out again. So now I want to again click on this icon to include the whole saturation range of this color in this image. This is my preview, so everything that is grayed out is not included in the selection, and those very subtle reddish brownish tones are part of my color selection. Let's just switch it off. And when it comes to this color, I want to actually go towards a reddish side, towards sort of magentish side. So with the blues, we went here on the hue slider towards the left hand side, but here I want to go the opposite side, the opposite direction. And this way I will be creating stronger color contrast as well between those cyans and those warmer red tones. So I went for 30 on the hue. I think it's not too much. I think it works quite well. When it comes to saturation, I think we can go towards positive values as well. Okay, this is too much. This is affecting those trees here as well, but something maybe around just before 70. Let's see, before and after. Okay, I think it works well. And when it comes to lightness, let's make here this color a little bit brighter as well. So something around 30. Okay, so you can see that during the color grading process, I'm not working this time with the color balance tool, but even with the advanced color editor, when I'm making certain colors brighter, when I'm accentuating them stronger, I'm already introducing more depth to the image. I'm basically differentiating the plants. We will talk about this further in a second, but I want you to notice already at this stage color grading we are accentuating certain parts in the image stronger, and that way we are creating depth in the image. We are creating more dimension, we are creating contrast, both in terms of luminosity and both in terms of color in between different elements in the image. So we have adjusted these two colors in our photo. Let's put our color editor back. Let's have the layers at the top. So this is our image before adjusting colors, and this is the image after. So let's now talk a little bit more about creating depth in this photo. So this scene, as I've mentioned before, was very far away from me. I haven't measured it, but it would be definitely more than 50 meters. So I have just captured this little crop. So this basically basically flattens the scene. So these birches, these trees are the nearest element. Then this sort of hill, it was going down very rapidly. There is a road down below, and these trees visible here in this upper left corner are basically growing on the opposite hill that is far away just after the road. So the portrait lens basically compressed the space. We don't see those distances, we don't see that space here. So now let's focus on creating stronger contrast between the first plan, that ground here, those birch trees, and those trees that are here in the distance. So what I want to do is to brighten the top part of the image to sort of create artificially the air perspective effect. So let's create new field adjustment layer, and let's just rename it to top gradient, and I'm going to be working with the linear gradient. Let's just create gradient like this. Let's hit M to see the preview of my mask. Okay, I want it to be really subtle, so always on the middle line you will have 50% visibility of your adjustment, here 100%, and on the last line 0. So I want it to be going very, very smoothly, very subtly. I think something like this should be fine. So let's switch off our mask preview. And on this layer, I'm just going to revisit my HDR tool and open up shadows. So let's find the HDR and let's push our shadow slider towards the right hand side. So by pushing the shadow slider towards the right hand side, we are introducing more light, we are making the top part of the image lighter, and now the contrast between these trees and the foreground got way, way stronger. So now the birch trees, now those bushes visible here, they are way more heavy. We can feel their structure stronger, while these trees got sort of airy and we can feel they are in a far distance. So this is before and this is after applying our adjustment. So now I would actually jump back to my background layer because the sky got a little bit too bright. So I'm just going to go back here, and again on my HDR tool, I'm going to push this highlight slider a bit further, maybe still not towards the negative 100, but quite far, so we are maintaining a little bit of the grayish tone in the sky. It's not melting with the white. So again, this would be before and after applying our adjustment. So here we can actually maybe go a little bit further. So with this layer, with this adjustment, we have pushed those yellow trees further away from us. So this affects everything here on this line, those yellow trees, this as well. You can see this if I switch off this layer. This is before and this is after the adjustment. Okay, let's move forward. Let's take a step further and let's now refine this effect of brightening these trees, but now we will be creating a color-based mask because I want to basically just brighten all these areas where we have those yellow leaves, those last leaves, and I don't want to touch those dark trunks. If I would apply similar adjustment layer as here with our linear gradient, this would be basically affecting everything, and I don't want to make those trunks brighter. So now I want to go deeper with this adjustment, but I want to be more precise as well. So let's create our color-based mask. To do this, we can use our color layer as a starting point. So let's go back to our advanced color editor, and here let's sample somewhere here in this area with yellow leaves. So these are not actually leaves. I don't know what is the name of this tree in English. In Polish I would say it's modrzew. So okay, let's sample somewhere here. Perfect, let's zoom out, and now let's just make sure that the whole saturation range is included, and we can push it, we can manually extend it a little bit more, so we will introduce more of the yellow tones and maybe a little bit more of the greens. So this is enough. This is our color selection. We can switch on this button here to see what is selected. Let's maybe zoom in here and see if we still can include a little bit more if I extend this selection. So not much really, and I don't want to go towards those magentish tones that we have been targeting before. So I would say this selection is perfect. Let's switch off our preview, and now I'm going to create the color-based mask. So our color is selected. All we need to do now is just go here and select create masked layer from selection. So Capture One is calculating, and now if we go on our layers, we can see that brand new layer was created at the very top of our layer stack. If I hit M, the red overlay shows me my mask. So I'm just going to call it yellow mask, and I'm going to add HDR because I will keep opening my shadows here with this mask. So this mask is a little bit too precise for the particular job, so I'm just going to refine it, or maybe feather, or maybe both. So I'm going to show you. First, let's refine the mask. So let's right click on the layer and go for refine mask. So here now you can see that if I go for the maximum amount for radius, this sort of extended the mask and it made it more precise. This is with 0 adjustment, and this is with the maximum. So I'm happy with this. I'm going to go apply, and I want to still extend this mask a little bit more. So let's maybe first apply the adjustment, so we won't run too far with this. So having our layer with the mask selected, I'm just going to jump to the HDR. So I think I have it here. And in my HDR tool, I'm just going to continue opening up those shadows. So you can see now that by restricting the yellow color, I have not included those trunk anymore. I'm adding still more depth. I'm bringing up the light. I'm bringing up the color, but in a very, very subtle way. I'm not adding any saturation here. I'm just making those parts a little bit brighter, and I'm still enriching this image and creating depth in the photo. So let's see, this would be before applying these adjustments, and this is the after. So now we can actually apply the further mask fine-tuning. I wanted to apply the feather because from such a big distance I wouldn't really see those little details, and I want to maintain a realistic look, so I would say I will go still with feathering. So right click on the layer and let's go for feather mask. Let's maybe, okay, let's do this, and I want to see the mask. So this is the after and this is before. So this is my mask before applying an adjustment, and let's now switch it off. So we will see how this will affect our adjustment with HDR tool. So if I go middle way, this is sort of softening the effect. If I go all the way to the right, this will be softening still more. So I think I will go for something like this. So this is how the mask got softened, and I think this is enough. So let's go apply, and now we can see again. So let's zoom out. So this is the image after opening the shadows within the yellow color range, and this is before. So you can see that this affected this whole part of those trees and those here nearer to the upper right corner as well. So this is before and this is after applying the adjustment. Okay, so we've been working on color. We have added more depth to the image, and I would like to actually jump back to my color editor, to my color layer. So let's open up the color editor, and we are now here. I'm going to sample again because this color got brighter. What I want to do now is I want to introduce a little bit more light here. I want to make those yellow colors a little bit more luminant. So here I'm on my color layer in the color advanced editor. I'm going to sample again. So let's sample somewhere here, and now I'm just going to again include the whole selection range, and now let's just push our lightness a little bit towards the right. Okay, this is too much. These trees are standing out too strongly. Let's actually highlight this numeric value and work with the arrow on the keyboard. So that way I can be way more precise. Okay, something like this I feel is enough. Let's see if we can manipulate with the hue. If I go towards the left-hand side, I'm going through the oranges towards the magentas and towards the red, which is exactly killing the image. Let's go the opposite way. So if I go somewhere here, this will cool down a bit those yellows. And actually, I think I might do this just a notch. So maybe something like this. So now by introducing this more yellowish tones in comparison with the original one, so this is before the adjustment, we've been more towards the orangey side, and now I've pushed it more towards the yellow. This contrasts a bit more with those cyans here. So this is very subtle. You might not be able to see it on your screen on YouTube with the compressed MP4 video, but I think that it's worth adjusting like that. Okay, so I have changed the hue a bit, and I have brightened the color just a notch. So I think this is enough when it comes to working with color. So now finally I want to go back to the, I would say, the most important element that I have in this composition, to my birch trees that are here in the middle. So now when I have applied all these adjustments, when I have worked on color, I have worked on the depth in the image, I have introduced more depth, but I haven't touched those birch trees and they are basically lost. So if I go for the original image, so this will be the original raw file, they are way stronger here. We have those colors here that are more on the brownish side, more dimmed, and those trees are still sort of main actors on the scene, but after all my adjustments they are lost. So let's fix it. And now actually I think that I've made these trees a little bit too bright. So the sun was setting down, it was positioned behind me, so it was sort of highlighting tops of these trees, but I think this is a little bit too much. So let's go down with lightness here. If I zero it out, it's like this. Okay, let's maybe touch it just a little bit. Let's not go crazy here. Okay, so on this layer we have our color grading, and now I want to start working on those birch trees. So to put emphasis on them, I'm going to apply a luma mask. So I will create a luma mask that will basically cover this luminosity range, sort of brighter midtones, and on this mask I will apply clarity. So let's do just that. I'm going to create new field adjustment layer, and let's maybe rename it to birch and HDR. So here we are, the layer is filled. This has to be done like that in order to make the luma range mask working. So now let's switch on the display mask preview, and I'm going to basically narrow down the selection. So let's push it towards the place where our birch trees are covered. Okay, something like this. I will fine-tune the mask manually. I want to basically get rid of everything else, but for the moment I think this works well. Okay, let's not introduce too much of these side branches, because we've been working hard with our matte effect at the beginning to push them away, and now they will be getting stronger. Okay, I think we got what we wanted. We have mask on our birch trees, so this applies to these birch trees in the middle and those here to the right hand side. Perfect, let's apply. So this is our mask. So now on our mask, I want to basically work with clarity tool. So let's take our clarity and let's apply quite a strong value because I'm going to mask out everything else just to put emphasis on these trees in the middle. Okay, so let's actually zoom in and let's take a look at the image at 100%. I'm on Retina display, so I should be looking actually at 200%, but then I wouldn't see anything. The trees would be cropped out. So since I'm focusing just on them, I think this is sufficient. So this is after applying our clarity at the full value, and this is before. So you can see that they got so much stronger. It is time now to refine the mask because apart from making these trees stronger, we are making those trees, we are making the sky brighter, we are adding clarity to all these elements, and this is not the way to go. So basically, if we are applying our clarity to all these elements that are masked here, to all those parts in the image that are now covered with the red overlay, this is not really helping with those birch trees because we should focus only on them. If we apply this to the whole image, basically everything got stronger. So let's now just refine the mask. When you are working with the Luma mask, you can still fine-tune it with the eraser tool. So let's just go for E eraser and let's adjust. I'm going to go for quite a strong flow, maybe a little bit lower size, and basically I want to paint over this area in this image. I want to exclude it from my selection, and that way I won't be applying my clarity over there. So let's now switch off the preview of my mask, and I would say that I want to get rid of this from the snow as well. I want to really focus only on these trees. Let's make my brush a little bit smaller. You can do this dynamically with your keyboard. So with the left square bracket, you can make your either brush or eraser smaller, and with the right square bracket, you can make it bigger. Okay, so I have fine-tuned the mask. Let's switch M again. And let's see if I should get rid. No, this is actually creating nice contrast between those trunks and adds more depth. It looks differently to the left part of the image. So we have those sort of triangles, the one behind the trees, the one here, and another one here. So I think this balances out nicely the composition. Maybe this part here is a little bit too strong, so we can paint over. But I like the rest. So here all those birch trees got super strong. Let's switch this adjustment off. So this is before and this is the after. And now as the very last step on this edit, I'm going to apply clarity over the whole photo. So this one I have added just on the mask, and the next one I'm going to apply all over the whole composition. So let's just create new field adjustment layer and let's rename it. Let's call it clarity. So here we have our clarity tool, and I'm going to apply both clarity and structure. So typically if you are working either on sharpening or with clarity, it is recommended to look at your image at 100% magnification level. So this is 50%, and I will stick with this because I want to see a little bit more. If I go for 100, I will see just a little part of the image. So I'm going to go for 50, and let's first maybe apply structure. So let's see, if I start working with this slider, you can see how beautifully it affects the image. It sort of adds this crispness. So as I've called this image at the beginning, that it is a frosty landscape, applying structure makes those branches, makes all these textures sort of sharper, and it adds more to this frosty mood. So if I switch this adjustment off, This is before. The image is way softer, it is sort of gloomy, and after applying this, it feels more as the temperature would be really low. The colors got clearer and everything got crisper. And we can add to this clarity. So let's start pushing our clarity slider to the right, but this I wouldn't apply too strongly, especially on the overall image. So okay, I like how those trees in the middle look like, but I don't like what is happening here. So we can now fine-tune our mask, because we've been applying this adjustment all over the image. So this is our mask. So I'm just going to remove it just a little bit from this area, because if we go on a stronger magnification level, we are now at 100%. There is again a lot of detail visible here, and I don't necessarily want to make these areas sharper. So if I switch off this layer, this is sort of tuned down, it's calmer, there is this sort of shade, sort of soft areas, and our eye is not drawn towards these areas. After applying these adjustments, this part starts screaming again. So let's just fine-tune this. I'm going to go for eraser, bigger size and lower flow, because I want to still keep it balanced, but the same, you can see these trees here, they are a little bit too sharp. So we can now play around with this, particularly these areas here. They occupy quite a large part in this image, but I would say they are a little bit more too detailed to my taste. So let's just mute them down a little bit. The same, let's apply around the corners. Let's try not to paint over those bright trees, those birch trees, because we have made them sharper, so that way they got clear, that got strong, that got brighter, and they really stand out beautifully right now. So let's see our mask after modification. So you can see that I have just erased it a little bit here and there. So you can of course fine-tune it, but more important is to look at the image and see how it affects the overall composition, if the image got more balance or if the initial adjustment looked better. So let's see again. This is before and this is the after. We could maybe apply a bit of structure on those trees on a separate layer. Let's do just that. I'm just going to still erase a bit of this clarity from those yellow trees here, our modrzew trees. So let's just paint over here. I'm working with lower flow, so I'm not removing the adjustment completely. I'm just softening it. So let's remove from here. Okay. So let's now add very last layer. I just want to check how it's going to look like. So new field adjustment layer, and I'm just going to go for structure again, quite high, and let's now actually invert the mask, and I'm going to work with my tablet, and let's go for brush and higher flow. So I want to paint basically over the trees. This could be done with a Luma mask as well. We could experiment, but I just want to very quickly check how this will affect. So I think this helps those birch trees to stand out even stronger. My only concern is that it could be a little bit too strong. I don't want to go for any artificial results here. So let's see, this is before, this is the after, and I was just operating with, okay, let's switch it on. And I was operating with my structure at 56. We can maybe go a little bit lower. Okay, and I think at this point a really good idea would be to step away from the screen for at least 15-20 minutes, get yourself a nice cup of tea. After you come back, you will be able to just look at the image with fresh eyes. So right now I'm not sure anymore if I should apply this adjustment or if it was better before. So I'm a bit tired already. I've been working on this image, I believe, about 1 hour, so I'm going to leave it at this point. So after a while I can come back and I can decide if I want to fine-tune the color grading and if I want to fine-tune my clarity, my sharpening. And for sure I will be tempted to create few more versions of color grading. So this can be done very easily. So we've been working with this image. All you have to do is to just right click on the image. Maybe I can click here so you will see the drop down menu. So right click and all you need to do is to just select clone variant. So the image number 2, this was the version that I've been working with you today. And this one, this is the new variant. So this is basically the copy of the image. So if we would like to create new color grading, we can leave this one untouched. This is our first version, and on our third clone variant we can maybe work with color balance. So here, if I would like to maybe introduce a little bit of blue to the shadows, I can just go here and start playing around with those sliders. Before I do just that, I want to make sure that I'm on a proper layer, because now I would be just on this mask. So we can just create new field adjustment layer. And okay, so this is our new layer. Let's call it very quickly CB for color balance. So on this one, if I would like to add a little bit of blue to the shadows, we can do this very quickly. We can lift the shadows further if we want to, or maybe this is too much. We can make them deeper. We can go more towards the cyanish tones, and with those subtle adjustments you can really create a new version of the image. So when it comes to the midtones, we can maybe go towards a little bit warmer side, so you can see this beautiful creamy tone on our birch trees. So if I would like to now compare, let's just get rid of the tools. If I would like to compare these two versions, so the one to the right, this is my image where I have applied color balance adjustments. They are very subtle, but the light got actually warmer. The whites that are quite cold here, if I take the color readouts on the white, we have 200 for the red, 201 for the green, and 19 for, no, actually they are not that cold, but here they are way warmer. We can see those whites that they got more creamy. So you can work like this on creating new color variants. This is a really very rewarding workflow. So once you are happy with your initial adjustments, with your initial image, you can create new color grading, having all the initial luminosity and clarity adjustments in place. So if you're getting value from my videos, I would appreciate, as always, leaving me a comment under this video, leaving me a thumbs up, and considering subscribing to my channel. So let me now take you very quickly through all these adjustments that we have performed today. So if I switch all of these off, we are on the background layer, and let's now hit Y on the keyboard. So this is our original raw file before any adjustments. So then on our background layer, we have applied the HDR adjustments, we have lifted the shadows, we have brought more detail to the highlights, then we've been working with levels adjustments, and we have lifted the shadows. So we have performed the strong adjustments here with our curves tool. So let's find our curve, it's here. So if I just temporarily switch it off with Alt key, so this is the image before lifting the shadows, and this is the image after. So this is what we've done on our background layer, and moving further, we've been working on color grading, and next we have applied brightening to the top of the image. That way we have created more depth to our scene. Next, we've been working on creating the color-based mask. We have opened up those yellows, the shadows in these areas. This created even more depth. Then we've been working on our birch trees. You can see how this really strongly works in this image. So this is our birch trees, and I have actually made a mistake here because I wasn't working with the HDR tool. lifting shadows wouldn't help, so excuse me, I've been working with clarity here. So I'm just going to rename it bird clarity. So on this layer we have applied our clarity. Here we have applied clarity to the whole image, clarity and structure. And on the very last layer, this is actually not relevant. I was just experimenting with the color balance. So this is our frosty landscape. This is again original image and our final result. So thank you very much for watching. If you want to learn more about Capture One, you can check out my Capture One comprehensive course. The link is available down below. Thank you very much for watching. This was Kasia Zmokla from Digital Art Classes, and I will see you very soon in the next video. Thank you and see you by now.